Hey, this is Andrea.
And this is Amanda.
I am the sword in the darkness.
And you're listening to Girls Nerd Out.
I am the watcher on the walls.
And now our rewatch has begun.
Dracarys.
Hey everyone, it's me, Amanda, with my best friend Andrea.
Hey.
And we're very excited to talk to you about episode 9 of season 1 of Game of Thrones, which is titled Baelor, which I knew Andrea would like because she talks about Baelor the Blessed quite a bit. That's her fave.
He's my favorite Targaryen.
We're being sarcastic, by the way. That's not her favorite. That's not.
Not even close.
No. Like, she's more Maegor than Baelor.
Oh, God, yeah. Baelor is just... anyway, read about him. Google him. It's very interesting.
Yeah, true. Very true. Okay, so we start out the episode in the Black Cells in the Red Keep, where Ned's been for quite some time. And he gets another visit from Varys. Varys is really trying. He's actually really trying to save Ned's life. Ned doesn't really see it that way because I think Ned's looking at it more of like a cut and dry, get me out of here, break the chains and let me out. And Varys is like, I told you I'm no hero. Ned, he's pretty irritated by this point, and rightly so. I don't know how long he's been down there, but it's been a while.
Yeah, he's like, it seems you're my last friend. And Varys is like, well, no, I mean, many still love you. And I'm like, do they?
Yeah, the ones that aren't there, people up north that don't know anything about it. So that's the danger.
Yeah.
Well, he's bitter, and I understand that. And he said, you grew up with actors. I grew up with soldiers. I learned to die a long time ago. And Varys is just kind of like, oh, come on, man. And so he brings up Sansa. What of your daughter's life? Is that a precious thing to you? Having to remind him that he's got a daughter out there that's in danger.
They talk about his honor quite a bit in this episode, not just Ned and Varys, but Maester Aemon even talks about Ned's honor. And it's interesting how, but he does give up over his honor. He does choose not his life, but his children, because he, confesses at the end, even though he didn't do anything wrong, in my opinion, but
confesses to things that aren't even close. Just basically whatever they wanted.
Whatever they wanted. He was trying to do his best there at least at that point. But, Joffrey, Joffrey would have killed him no matter what. So.
Oh, yeah, definitely. He already had that in his head. Which, as we know, some of that is stemming from Robert's death. I mean, I don't think people put that together. I know we do. And we talked about it, when Robert sends everybody out but Ned. Joffrey remembers that.
He did love his dad. And, when Marillion sings that song in this episode, I used to think he was upset because he didn't like that it was talking about his mom. But it wasn't about his mom. It was about his dad.
I think that's overlooked, too. Robert did a lot of damage on his way out. We'll say that.
Yes, he did.
And it's not just Joffrey doing that for fun. It's because Joffrey, I don't know if he even knows it, but Joffrey's sitting there thinking, why did my dad care for you so much and not me?
Everyone who isn't us is an enemy.
Okay, so next, we're at the Twins. And I know you love House Frey so much. Would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, so basically they need to cross the Trident to go south. So Lord Walder Frey, you have to kind of you have to work with him a little bit. And Well, first Rob's like, well, he'll have to let us cross because he's grandfather's, which is Hoster Tully's, bannerman. And I'm like, hey, that man doesn't care about being a bannerman. Trust me, especially when Catelyn goes in the twins, because I like how fake her niceties is. Like, you can smell that from like 10 miles down the road. Like Harrenhal can smell it, I think. How even Wilder Frey is like, really, like, come on. I thought he was really funny in this episode. Gross, but funny.
Yeah.
But basically, they need to cross, and Catelyn thinks that it's gonna be okay because Catelyn is Hoster Tully's daughter, so he'd listen to her. Oh,
she thinks that'll keep her safe too, and I'm like, that's a little naive. I'm just
that
saying.
will not keep you safe. What is interesting is, like his sons want him to show the niceties of having somebody in their hold or whatever, and that son is Stevron Frey, and he looks older than Walder Frey. Isn't that crazy? Like, that's his heir, and he looks older than Walder Frey.
That's just so weird. I guess because how old is he supposed to be? He's like
99 or 98. He's
Jesus.
old. And he just got married to a 15-year-old. Her name is Joyce Renford. She is his 8th wife.
Holy
and
cow.
He calls her a little flower, and her honey is all his.
Oh yeah, that was so cringe, man.
That was the only part I didn't like about this, because that's just gross, and she's a child. She's still alive in the books, I believe. The last time I heard of her, I think she's pregnant with his child, which is sad.
Well, he slaps her on the ass, and I was like,
yeah, he's basically upset because he doesn't like Hoster Tully at all, and Hoster Tully has never been to any of the weddings, really. I'm like, that's your fault for marrying 8 wives.
I mean, House Frey is huge, and that's all on him, dude. Apparently he's a fertile guy.
He has like 30 sons, I think, and not all. I think, well, way more than that. 30 true-born sons. I don't know how many bastards. So many bastards.
Oh yeah, because one of them says something, and he's like, "Your mom would still be a milkmaid if I didn't squirt you in her belly."
Yeah, he's disgusting. But I like how he talks about, because she's like, hey, my son needs 20,000 of his men to cross, and she's like, he goes, you mean 20,000 corpses when the Lannisters get here? I like how he says corpses.
True. I mean, it's the Lannister army. He's not lying.
No.
That's funny. He's not lying. Again, they're pushing for this, and Rob does really well, but this is kind of like foreshadowing. You're going up against House Lannister, and they're rich. We'll just say that.
They could hire more swordsmen, lots of swordsmen.
Hell yeah, they can.
A lion doesn't concern himself with the opinions of a sheep.
After that, we go to Castle Black, and Commander Mormont is asking Jon how his hand is healing. And in the books, with his POV, he's stretching his hand out a lot, because I think Maester Aemon told him to do that, so it would, regain flexibility. And Jon's stressed about it because, I mean, he doesn't want to not have a sword hand. So he tells Mormont that it's actually doing pretty well. And Commander Mormont takes out a sword, and it is the Valyrian steel sword of House Mormont, Longclaw. And he has had a new, what is it, pommel?
Yeah.
He's had a new pommel put on it. It was a bear, and he had a direwolf put on there, but it's a white direwolf, so it's basically Ghost. And something else I found interesting is he mentions the beef with Jon and Alistair Thorne, another one of your faves. And Jon says he's going to apologize. And Mormont's like, no, you won't. And then he proceeds to tell him that Alistair Thorne has taken a hand to King's Landing, But I think it's more than that. I don't think he would have wanted him to apologize if Thorne had still been there.
Yeah, I think he really cares about John more than just his steward, to be honest, or one of the men of the Night's Watch. I think he really sees something in him. So
yeah, and he knows what Thorne is.
Thorne's a terrible person.
He's a bad person. Now,
But
something that I wanted to say, like really quick, that I thought you would like. You know, when he takes his sword into the dining hall, I guess, or wherever they are, and all of his friends run up and want to see it.
yeah,
Do you know what it made me think of?
huh.
It made me think that part of the watch, it reminds me of the Lost Boys.
Yeah.
And I've never thought that before, but it was just about how excited they got. It was like childlike. And I just thought, because like there they are, they don't have family. And I was like, well, there's Peter Pan and the Lost Boys.
You could hear it in the background. Pip was holding it, and he's like, look at the eyes.
And they're like kids. Well, I mean, they are kids. Well, let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
So Sam looks like hell. He's got a look. And John's like, what is it? Sam's kind of hesitant. And then he's like, there was a raven. Your brother has an army. He's marching south. So do you think he should have told him or not?
I don't think he should have told him, because then John wouldn't have tried to run. But maybe he should have, because maybe it's fine, because it's a decision-making time for John. He has to, like, kill the boy and let the man live, kind of situation.
Yeah.
Like, he's gotta, yes, that's his family, but he has family now. Like, he actually has a real family now, and they're all, like, similar, so he needs to just move on, kind of thing. But that's why I like this episode, because it helps that in a sense.
I agree. The way I thought about it was, would I tell you? Yes. Because chances are you're going to find out. And what's it going to be better for you? Hearing it from me or just a random person as gossip? So I would have told you. And I think that's what Sam's thinking, I think.
Yeah, and I wrote, how John wanted to say, how John was saying he needs to be there for Rob. I was like, I wonder how Kat would react if John just showed up.
You know what I wrote?
What?
I can't see John with Rob and Theon and Kat.
That would be really funny if he did show up, though. She'd be like, oh, God, not again. I thought I'd never see you, kind of situation.
And Rob would be happy to see John, and he would tell Kat to shut up.
Yep, that'd be funny.
That would really be funny.
Winter is coming.
Kat returns, and she tells Rob basically what she consented to so that they could cross.
Yeah.
It gets worse as it goes on. He has to take one of Frey's sons, Oliver, as a squire. Mm-hmm. And then Arya is going to marry one of the sons. And then Rob has to marry one of the daughters. I know you looked that up in the books.
She's supposed to marry Waldron Frey. Waldron Frey doesn't exist. For some reason they changed his name, but Arya's engaged to Elmar Frey, who is the 22nd son of Walder, and he is still alive in the books.
Interesting.
He was last seen at Harrenhal in, I believe, the Feast for Crows.
I feel like that was a really, really heavy price, because you've got two of your kids marrying a Frey. I don't know. I don't know how Kat bargained. We're not privy to that conversation. I feel like she should have been way more difficult. Like, yeah, Arya will marry a Frey, but no. I mean, Rob's king in the north. No. Like, I feel like she gave in, but...
Well, I understand Rob, because it's his war, and he needs that bridge to cross, or they won't be able to get across. So it makes sense. I just wish she didn't say you get to. Well, I mean, I wouldn't want. I don't know, because I don't even like this conversation where she's like, I have taken a look at his daughters, and one of them was, she didn't even finish the sentence. It's like, goddamn, it's not marriage. It's a marriage of convenience. You just gotta have to deal with whatever wife you get.
Yeah, she makes a point to say that she looked at all the daughters, and I guess she's about to say one was okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not the time for you to be saying this, Kat.
No. But he accepts and they cross, so.
Yeah, because that's the way it is. But if Rob's marrying a Frey, I don't see why Arya has to too. Like
I don't either.
that, I think that should be enough. And the Squire and Rob should have been enough. So I think you and I bargained better than Kat. I'm just saying that.
How can a man be brave if he's afraid? And that is the only time a man can be brave, he told me.
We go to Castle Black, and John has been requested by Maester Aemon to help him feed the ravens, which is just an excuse. And this whole scene, this is a very well-known scene. It's known to be one of the best, I would say, in season 1 because it's quoted. Maester Aemon is asking John what his father would do if he was asked to choose between honor and the lives of his family. And John says that his father would do whatever was right no matter what. And Aemon says, yeah, you have a really honorable father because most people would choose family, which is true. He's just telling the truth. And John is angry. He has every right to be angry, and he's snippy with Maester Aemon, which again is understandable.
Yes.
But then you realize the reason Aemon wanted to talk to John. I want you to talk about that because just in case nobody's picked up on this, which that's a joke because I know they have, Andrea has read Fire and Blood I don't know how many times. I really don't. It's a lot.
Yeah.
She's pretty much a pro in Targaryen history. She knows way more Targaryen history than I do. Would you mind talking about what Aemon says about his family?
Yeah. He says, first he says the gods were cruel when they saw fit to test my vows. They waited until I was old, which how old was he when all this happened? I don't think he was that old. It was at least 15 years between Rhaegar and the children and Elia.
He says he was blind.
Yes.
So I would assume that was probably the biggest issue, but he's really old, so I guess he was still old then, but yeah, he probably wished he was like, I don't know, 20s, 30s, I guess is what he means.
Well, he talks about like the house, like his house basically being done, the death of his family. They killed my brother's son and his son and the children. He's upset about the children, which is understandable. My father was Maker, which was like he was the only Maker so far. My brother Aegon reigned after him when I refused the throne, followed by his son Aerys, known as the Mad King. That is not true. They messed up. I know they just threw around words and names, but Aerys is the son of Aerys is the son of Jaehaerys II, which is Aegon the Fifth's second son. He didn't rule that long, but I don't know why they couldn't just say Jaehaerys II. I don't know why they said Aegon the Fifth was the Mad King. He's the Mad King's grandfather.
Yeah, they just omitted Jaehaerys for no reason. Just cause.
It's really weird because they don't even mention Sir Duncan not Sir Duncan, but Duncan the Small. They don't even talk about Duncan the Small, and that was the first son that was supposed to have the throne. So it's really weird.
Well, and this is the first season, so I don't think they knew how big it would get, but I mean, they had the source material, so that's a bit frustrating. But I'll admit to you, when he's given that speech, which is acted so well. I mean, we love Maester Aemon, and the casting for him was perfect. But when he gets like so passionate about it, and he's like, the ruin of my house, the death of my family, and he says, but when I heard they had killed my brother's son and his poor son and the children, even the little children, since Jaehaerys is skipped, that does kind of confuse you about what he's talking about. And if you know the books, when you hear like the ruin of my house and all that, you immediately think of Summerhall because that's Egg. That's Aegon, the brother he was really close to. But that is not what he's referring to. Because Andrea and I talked about that. And I believe he said like only one child was lost at Summerhall.
Yeah, I mean that we know of, because I think like a lot of people died, but the ones that we know of is Duncan the Small and Aegon the Fifth and Duncan the Tall.
So I looked it up just to be sure, and the intention of this, he's talking about Aerys, Rhaegar, and Rhaegar's children.
I wonder why he didn't bring up Elia.
Or Viserys.
Yeah.
I wonder that too. I wonder why Maester Aemon knows that they fled Dragonstone. He has to, right?
Yeah.
Or did they lie to him and not tell him that Daenerys and Viserys were alive?
I don't know. They didn't even talk about Rhaella. They don't even talk about Rhaella at all in this show.
Oh. I feel like if he knew, he would have wanted at least correspondence with them. So that opens up a whole nother can of worms of, did they purposefully try to hide that from him? Maybe.
Probably,
yeah. Why is everybody hating on our House Targaryen?
Oh, I don't know.
Targaryens are gone.
Not all of them.
We go across the Narrow Sea, and Drogo is not well at all. He's bad.
He's going through it, man. Oof.
Yeah, he's real bad. He's slumped over. He's mumbling things to himself. He obviously has a fever that is just insane.
Can we just give credit to Jason Momoa for a minute? Because that was really good acting.
You know what? Thank you for saying that, because we do forget. He doesn't get enough credit. He did a damn good job. He did.
He died well.
He really did. So he falls off his horse, which for the Dothraki, that's really the end. They will not follow a man who cannot ride. That is just the way it is. And he, even in this state he's in, he realizes that, because Daenerys runs to him and he's saying, my horse, my horse. He knows he has to stay on the horse for them to follow him, but he can't do anything. And so Daenerys says, we're going to camp here. And she gets huge pushback from Kotho. Yeah. Kotho is an asshole. But if you look at it from Kotho's point of view, that's just their beliefs. You know what I mean? The Dothrakis, they're savage about some stuff. It's a hard life, and that's just their culture. If he can't ride, then he can't fight, and he can't lead. So Kotho is like, this isn't anywhere we should camp. And she gets snappy, and she's like, if you don't listen to me, then, Drogo's going to hear about it. And she asks for Miri Mazdur.
Yay!
Yeah. Every time she comes on the screen, I'm just like, ugh.
It's already her fault, so it is what it is.
You're learning to talk like a queen.
Not a queen. A Khaleesi.
I want you to talk about this. Tyrion is going to join his father's, dinner party?
They're having some fancy eating. That's what they're having.
Wow, it's a lot.
So they talk about basically they talk about the Tywin talks to Tyrion and says, hey, those wildlings of yours, those mountain men, I hope they're worth it, because you're wasting a lot of steel on them. And I'm like, have you taken a good look at them? I mean, Kevin's like, they're ferocious. Tyrion's like, ferocious? A moon brother stabbed a stone crow over a sausage. 3 stone crows seized the moon brother and killed him. Shaga wanted to cut his unit off, and Ulf is demanding blood money, and I looked up Ulf. I looked him up because I hate Ulf. I hate the name Ulf. So
wait, but it's because of House of the Dragon, y'all.
yeah, this one I don't have a problem with. But Ulf is the son of Almar. He is a moon brother, and he dies in the battle that they're about to fight. So unfortunately, he dies. A lot of moon brothers die. Actually, they don't talk about it.
No, they don't. One thing we did notice about this scene is that Tywin is referring to the mountain clans as wildlings, and we can't figure out why, because they're from the Vale. So I guess that was just something they threw in because it sounded cool.
They also don't talk about what battle they're about to fight. It's the battle on the Green Fork. So there's that. So Tyrion and the wildlings are going to be put in the vanguard. And I thought that was odd because he started this. Tywin started this because of what Catelyn Stark did. And now he wants to put his son in the front lines. But he does do that in the books. So I guess he just doesn't care about his son, or he does care about his son. Nobody really knows.
At this moment, it appears he doesn't, because Tyrion is just like, oh, great, so you're sending me to die, and he leaves.
He's inconsistent in this show. Very inconsistent.
Very. So, briefly, we see Tyrion goes back to his tent. Bronn's there with Shay.
Yay!
And Andrea figured out something that's really funny. Shay's obviously gorgeous. And Tyrion's surprised, like, where'd you find her? And Bronn says, some ginger cunt. What does he say, like 2 tenths down?
Yeah, something like that. And I'm assuming Bronn killed him or punched him, one of the two, because he said wait, didn't he say something? And Bronn's like, oh, he said something. So I'm assuming he killed him or punched him in the face. I don't know.
Probably knocked him out. And Andrea freaking killed me because she realized something. So who's the ginger cunt 2 tenths down?
Well, I assumed it's Ed Sheeran, but he might be because Ed Sheeran is in the show as a Lannister army man. So it's like, okay, it's probably his dad.
That's why Andrea's my best friend, because I never would have thought of that. So now it's canon that Bronn took Shay away from Ed Sheeran's dad.
Yeah.
God, I enjoy that.
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.
We have Daenerys trying to take care of Drogo. He's mumbling. He's got a fever. He's calling for his horse. And Jorah just says he's not going to live out the night. And Jorah wants to flee. He keeps talking about Ashai, which is interesting because he says that there's a port in Ashai. And I'm sitting there thinking, why the hell would you think Ashai? Like, that is a dangerous, dangerous place with nothing can grow there, and there's shadow binding, but alright, Jorah. Sure. Whatever. And she's not gonna leave. Not shocking. And he tries to warn her that the Khalasar is not gonna follow Drogo. And she doesn't seem to understand succession because she's like, I have his son, the stallion that'll mount the world. And George's just like, no, that's not how this works. They'll kill your son, and you're not going to be the Khaleesi anymore. Which she's just going through a whole lot with that. And we have Kotho, who's still pissed off. This is very emotional, and it's a lot. Jorah says basically he wants to leave. Kotho is disgusted because Daenerys wants Miri to save Drogo. And she says that he is indeed beyond her healing. And Daenerys is just basically saying, I know you know more than that. And she's like, yeah, I do. But some would say that death is cleaner.
You know, when she says, talks about the spell that she has, that she could use on him, she looks at, because she's like, death pays for life. Just, remember that. And, she looks at Daenerys' stomach, and I never noticed that before.
I think she also was tricking her too, because she looks at her stomach and then she says, "Bring me his horse."
And that horse, that was such a that horse was like, hell no, I'm not going in there. I'm not going in there.
It was like she knew it was going to be Daenerys's baby, but she gave Daenerys something to focus on so she could pretend it was just going to be the horse. Like, man, she's a twisted woman.
And she says that they can't be like she makes Daenerys leave the tent, right? Which is funny. But the two Dothraki riders that are in there with the horse, they're still in there. They are staying there, and I'm like, isn't that going to harm something?
Yeah, blood magic's weird and it's unpredictable, so I wouldn't be in there, because she says like the dead are basically going to be in there tonight.
Yeah,
and
well,
you hear that shit. Now, that shit sounded scary.
It was terrifying.
I forgot it sounded that scary. I don't even know what to say it sounded like. Weird shrieks.
Yeah, it was creepy.
Very. I couldn't watch her slit the horse's throat, though. I couldn't do it. So, she tells Daenerys to get out of there, and Kotho sees Daenerys walk out of the tent, and Daenerys has blood on her face because of the horse, and Kotho is just disgusted and furious. And he wants to go in there, and he ends up fighting Jorah, and Jorah kills him because Kotho's weapon gets stuck in his armor. So I guess that proves the whole armor is useful thing, because the Dothraki said armor's not useful. Well, apparently it is.
That reminds me of the conversation he had before about talking about how, like, men in iron suits, yes, the Dothraki fight really well, but they're fighting men in iron suits.
Exactly. Which I think that's why that happened. But Kotho had pushed Daenerys out of the way, and that starts her labor. And she's like, the baby is coming. And he's asking for the midwives. The midwives won't come because of Mirri Maz Duur. And they're like, the witch knows about, birth. So Jorah takes her into the tent.
I wanted to say really quick that fight between him and Kotho was really well done. And even though it's really quick, it's probably one of my favorite fights out of all the show. Well, most of this seasons, because, they're not arguing back and forth. There's no, like, shit talking. It's just, I'm going to fight you and you're going to die.
I agree with that. Yep. I do. Sorry, I just wish Jorah didn't take her in the tent, but, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Valar Morghulis. All men must die, but we are not men.
The next scene is also pretty interesting, because it's Tyrion, Shae, and Bronn, and they're playing drinking games. It's basically Never Have I Ever. And then Tyrion wants to start a new game, and you can tell what it is. It's how to find out things about people, because, like, Tyrion is with a Lady of the Night and also a sellsword. So they've had incredibly different lives than him. So he's nosy. It's a nosy game. So if he guesses correctly, they have to drink. If he's wrong, then he has to drink. He starts with Bronn, and it's not really surprising. At first, at least, because he's like, yeah, your father hit you. And what was the other one? You killed your first man when it was pretty young.
Yeah.
And then I thought you would find this one interesting. He's like, you've been beyond the wall. And Bronn drinks. So that means he has.
And I'm like, has he seen White Walkers before?
And Tyrion asked him, like, what took you beyond the wall? And he just says work. I'm like, I would like to know more about that, please.
Yeah, what kind of work sends you beyond the wall that lets the Night's Watch let you even go beyond the wall?
I don't know, but that's just another little thing I would love to ask somebody about, but there's nobody to ask. So Shay doesn't want to play that game, and she reluctantly is like, eh. And Tyrion says, your mother was a whore. And she's like, drink. And what was the other one? Next, it was something about her dad.
Her dad left when she was young, yes.
Yeah, she's like, drink. And he's like, you better be telling the truth. And she's getting more and more angry. So she tells him, if you ever say anything about my mother and father, I will claw your eyes out. So there's something there. There's definitely something there. Andrea and I talked about it, and we wonder if she was maybe like one of the merchant prince's daughters that rebelled or something, but there's definitely a backstory there.
Yes.
Which we'll never know. It's fine.
Knowledge is power.
Power is power.
Oh, God, I have to bring this up. So, Tyrion tells the story of his marriage to Tysha, which some guys were trying to assault her, and Jaime went after the guys, and he went to comfort Tysha, took her to an inn, fed her. They hit it off. They do the deed. He's in love. He asked her to marry him the next morning, and they were really happy for a fortnight. Then Tywin finds out about it, and he has Jaime tell Tyrion that it was all set up. None of it was real. And then Tywin has all his men assault Tysha. And it's really dark because she got, a silver stag for each man. And by the time they were finished, she had coins just like overflowing in her hand.
Yeah.
And it's really dark, but I mean, should we say what happens in the book? Because they left it out in the show. Why not?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. I'll try to say it as nice as I can. Tyrion's a lot darker in the books. A lot. Because he does not say this part. Tyrion goes after all those men. And how he's able to do that, I have no idea. But they left that out because they wanted a different version of Tyrion. But yeah, he goes after all of the soldiers. If you're a Tyrion stan, just know that.
I thought that this scene was really well acted, but it also kind of felt weird because they were talking about it during a drinking game. So it's just sad.
It's very sad. And it's really dark if you're in the book version. Ugh.
Have I shocked you, little dove?
Okay, so the next scene is the quote unquote battle. And Tyrion doesn't really participate in the battle because he gets knocked out really fast, which is kind of funny. And what do you think about the battle?
Well, the fact that they don't even talk about the battle, like they don't say what it's called, because it's literally in history as the battle on the Green Fork. So I read in the book that the Green Fork battle has a lot more people than they say. They even say Roose Bolton is the one that led the Stark men to this battle. So we didn't see Roose Bolton in this season. We didn't see Gregor Clegane either. Sir Gregor Clegane is the leader of the vanguard that Tyrion and the Mountain Men are supposed to be on. We didn't see him either. They mention him, but we don't see him. And
holy crap. I didn't know it was Roose Bolton that led them down.
Yeah. Roose Bolton led them. He lost all those men. Yeah. I think this was his His banner, actually.
Holy
Part of it.
crap.
Yeah, I'd have to relook. I could be wrong, but I'm thinking it's his banner. Or one of his banners, because they said 2,000 banners went.
I wonder if they wanted Roose to have like a grand entrance, so they just didn't have him yet.
That could be. But, the Mountain isn't like a super big character in the show yet. They could have showed him.
Yeah.
That is what it is. But so it's a very fast battle, and you don't even get to see it because it's non-existent. I guess they didn't have the budget. I guess the budget is just the clothing and the dragons. But we don't see the dragons until the very end. So, but anyway, so it just reminded me of the Battle of the Burning Mill. This battle isn't very long, and neither is the Battle of the Burning Mill. You see all the dead bodies. You see the mountain men actually getting along and killing people, but that's it.
Funny enough, there's only a couple things that I made a note about. One was, now we know why Robb wanted that scout to go back. It was to tell Tywin that he had 20,000 men. And remember how Cat started to object? He knew what he was doing. Hush, Cat, hush. The other one is, Tywin has glorious armor. That's what I wrote. It's true though. He rolls up and he looks great.
He does. What I do like before they go into battle, Tyrion rounds up the mountain men and he calls out like the Stone Crows, the Black Ears, the Burn Men, the Moon Brothers, and then one of the clansmen goes, "Hey, and the Painted Dogs too, and the Painted Dogs."
It's just so funny.
It was a good short scene, but yeah, and Bronn says that he's a shit warrior, which is funny because he is.
Yeah. Yeah, and just in case y'all didn't know, Tyrion has no nose in the books. Just saying.
They didn't want to mess up pretty Peter Dinklage's face, I guess.
Heck no, they didn't. So he just got a scar later on. All right, so the biggest thing about this is they capture Jaime. That's huge. I would like to point out that Robb feels incredibly guilty that he sent 2,000 men to their death.
As a distraction.
That's exactly it. 2,000 men, which he knew wouldn't make it, instead of his 20. So he kept his 18 to engage Jaime's forces, captured Jaime. And I do have a note here that says, "Where is Grey Wind?"
I know. Because they talk about Grey Wind in this episode.
I know. But where is Grey Wind? Because we know that's who Robb fights with. He fights with Grey Wind. We don't see Grey Wind. Fine. So, Jaime has an attitude. He's so sarcastic, as we would expect him to be. Does Kat start asking him questions then, or is it later?
She asks him more questions in this episode 10.
Yeah.
But she does say, "Give me my daughters and my husband."
That's what I was wondering, if she started asking about her family then. Well, I'm glad she did. Good for her. That was sarcasm, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. Also, since I'm petty, have we had a scene where Kat sends a raven back to Winterfell to check on anybody or tell them how it's going?
Nope.
Oh, okay. All right. So, Robb makes a really good speech, and I just like Robb a lot. I really do.
Did we get my father back? Did we save my sisters from the queen? Like, that was really compelling.
Yep. And in the books, he's 14. They aged him up for the show, but not much. What's he supposed to be? Maybe 16?
Well, I think Daenerys is 16, right? So, yeah, probably the same age.
Yep. So, 16-year-old giving a speech like that.
Vala Morgulis.
Vala Morgulis.
It's Arya in King's Landing. And this is one of those scenes that shows us how King's Landing really is. There's just a lot of people that can't eat. And Arya is literally hunting pigeons to trade for food.
Did you notice the way she just kills the bird? Like,
Yeah.
just simply snaps its neck. I'm like, I get you're hungry, but oh.
I think that's foreshadowing major. She has no problem, doing what she needs to do. And we know that comes into play a lot in the future.
Yes, which I like the scene. It's crazy because she's like begging for food, and they're like, "Nope, you're not getting any food." And then everybody's running around, and
Well, and she tries to trade the pigeon to like that baker, but then like everybody's walking off. I would have grabbed whatever that was because that looked good. Some kind of like, I guess it was like a lemon tart or something.
something like that.
Yeah, I would have grabbed one of those, man, especially if they were fresh. I'm just saying. I mean, don't do that. Don't steal.
But if you do,
if you are starving and the guy's really rude to you, then if one of his tarts goes missing, it's fine. All right, this is when stuff really starts getting real because some kids run by and Arya's like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "The hand of the king, the hand of the king. He's gonna confess." And she's like, "Oh God." So
the steps of
she,
Baelor.
yep, and she runs and gets on top of the base of the statue of Baelor so she can see.
The
Yeah.
crowd is disgusting in this scene. They're just disgusting.
I want you to talk about that because I need everybody to know this. I gotta tell them about you and the small folk. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I have to. Anytime, it doesn't matter if it's Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, A Song of Ice and Fire, Fire and Blood, doesn't matter. Whenever it's one of those things about, but the small folk, and if it's King's Landing, small folk, Andrea will tell you every time, those are the people that cheered for Ned's head.
They do.
That is an Andrea quote. So this is the scene. So you let them have it, honey. You do it.
Yeah. So Ned is being brought out by the City Watch, which F the City Watch.
Mm-hmm.
And like the crowd is going crazy. They're like hitting him. They're telling him that he's a coward and a traitor. And I'm like, you don't even know him. You don't even know who he is.
True.
Like how can you say he's a traitor and a coward just because the king says it doesn't mean he is. Like the fact that they just jump up and down for whoever the leader is because you'll see in season 2, I believe, that the small folk turn on Joffrey after this. So they don't really care who you are. If you don't do something for them, they don't like you. If you do something for them, they like you.
This is their entertainment.
They throw a rock at Ned in this.
Yep.
Like, they're disgusting.
And they don't know who he is. Another disadvantage of somebody from the north coming to King's Landing, they have no loyalty to House Stark. Some of them probably don't even know what House Stark is, honestly.
Exactly. They're just like, hey, the king's bringing someone up to probably kill for treason because they believe that he committed treason, which he didn't. But anyway.
Yeah, what's really, really heartbreaking is Ned gets brought out, and you can tell his eyes are adjusting to the light because he's been in the black cells, and he sees Arya on the statue, and he's looking around for any friendly face at all, like anybody, and he sees Yoren from the Night's Watch, and he passes by him and he says Baelor, and Yoren looks up and Ned says again Baelor. And that is Ned saying, "Go save my little girl." Which is why the name of the episode is Baelor.
I wish they could have gotten Sansa out of there too, but
yeah, he knew there was no way for her. But Arya was in the crowd, so that was go save her, and also I'm sure even if he thought he was going to be fine, he didn't want Arya to see him confess. I don't think
no.
so.
No.
Ned cares for his kids more than Cat.
Yep.
So he is told to confess for his treasons, all treasons, all made up treasons. And Sansa has a look of, I did it. It worked. And she seems pleased because she thinks that, they manipulated the hell out of her.
But she really believed that she saved her dad's life. So,
and if not for Joffrey, she would have. He would have gone to the
I know.
lodge. Yeah.
I truly believe that all the people up there, maybe not Baelish, but I truly believe all the people up there believed that his life was going to be okay. I really do.
Even Cersei. We talked about that on the phone.
Yep.
So he says that his mother and Sansa have, pleaded for mercy, and you think it's going to go well. And he's like, but they have the weak hearts of a woman.
Soft hearts of women.
They have the soft hearts of women. And he says that, while he's king, treason won't go unpunished. And then there's the classic, Sir Ilyn, bring me his head.
Treason won't go unpunished, yet his mom is committing treason by having bastard children on the throne.
Yeah, and we know Joffrey hears about those rumors. He eventually he says something to his mom about it, but I think he probably has heard rumors even now at this point.
Probably.
Before that, Ned confesses to just whatever they told him to, and Andrea pointed out that he even confesses to having a plot to kill Joffrey.
And I'm like, what? You didn't do that. None of that. I mean, you can say whatever you want, but that was like, what? Nobody plotted to kill Joffrey.
Yeah. And Ned does look at the statue to see that Arya's gone. So that is one small blessing, is that he knows that Yoren got to Arya before he dies.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. I hope at some point, Yoren told her, your dad is the one that told me to come get you. We don't really know that, but I like to think that.
Vala Morghulis.
Vala Morghulis.
Cersei looks completely freaked out because she didn't expect this, and she knows it's a mistake. That's just opening up a huge can of worms to kill Ned. He is beloved in the North, and the North is big. So she tries to reason with Joffrey, and he's just not having it at all. Doesn't care. So, like you said earlier when we were talking, you said that's when Cersei realizes she has absolutely no control.
She definitely doesn't, especially when you hear Tywin and Tyrion talk in the next episode about him, coming to King's Landing and making the boy king and his mom to heal. So clearly she has no power.
It's just a heartbreaking scene. So Yoren starts immediately calling Arya boy and grabs her and tells, don't look, don't look. And the crowd's cheering. And Janice Slint forces Ned to his knees, and obviously ill in pain, which we haven't talked about. He goes in the same category as Alistair Thorne. Who else? Gregor Clegane, Meryn Trant. Yeah. We can't stand him. The scene is shot incredibly well. It's slowed down, and you can hear Ned's breathing. Sansa just is screaming and trying to get to her dad, but they're holding her back, but she tries the entire time. And Ned is Ned. And so he bends down, exposing his neck and his own sword, Ice. The Valyrian steel sword of House Stark is the one that takes his head. And I will tell you one thing I noticed. So the show The Tudors, George really liked that show. That's why he wanted Natalie Dormer to play Marjorie. When Anne Boleyn loses her head in The Tudors, you don't see that. It cuts to some birds flying. And that's the exact same thing that happens with Ned. And I think that's where he got the idea. Because nobody really wants to see that. So his head's getting cut, and it just shows Arya look up and she's looking at pigeons.
Yeah.
And Sansa faints.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just, she's in shock, basically.
Yeah.
And that is the end of that episode, and it shocked the world.
Oh, yeah, everybody thought he was going to be the main character.
Yeah, they did. And he was not. So, literally, well, and Drogo, that shocked them too. So, people very early on realized nobody's safe.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. There is no middle ground.
So, season 1 finale, Fire and Blood. It picks up like immediately after the previous episode. There's a sword, it's got blood on it, and it actually has a couple of hairs stuck to it. I gotta give them credit for small, creepy details. And Yoren takes Arya and just keeps saying boy, like really loud, which is really smart. Arya's confused by it, but you gotta give Yoren credit, man. You really do.
Yeah, he cuts her hair, which was smart too.
Yeah, that was real smart. Immediately takes her over to like an alley, cuts her hair, and he kind of jumps her ass because he has to. I mean, she's in shock too. He's like, "You're a boy. You are a boy now." Like, and that was really dangerous of him to do that. I mean, he could have, if they had caught him, he would have been tortured and all sorts of stuff. So, props to him.
It's either me or this cold, and it doesn't appear to be going anywhere.
Next scene is Crypts. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, so Bran tells Asha that he's had a dream. Well, we see a little bit of it. We see the three-eyed crow take him to the crypts, which that's like every single dream that he's had.
Yeah.
And he tells Asha that he saw his dad down there, and she's like, "Oh, he's not down there. He won't be there for quite a long time." And it's just it's ironic because he's dead. So,
yeah.
But, she's kind of hesitant to go down there. And he's like, "You're afraid. And I don't know why you're afraid. I'm a cripple. I mean, you're just like Hodor because he's afraid too." And I wonder why Hodor is afraid.
Okay. Rickon and Bran both have a dream about their dad being in the crypts.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's magic. Now, I don't know what kind of magic it is. I don't know where that came from because Rickon sees it too. The crypts are really mysterious. It could be something down there for all we know. I think Hodor feels that.
Yeah, I Googled because I was curious because I don't remember if he had that feeling in the book. I think he did have that feeling in the books because someone said that George said he has a sense of something for that time, but only that time. So it's interesting.
Yeah, he feels something, definitely. 'Cause we have no idea what's all down there.
We only get to see a little bit past Lyanna's statue, and then when Ned gets put down, Ned's statue gets made, then we see that. But other than that, we don't see much of the crypts.
Yeah, we get some details in the books. That's where the Kings of Winter are interred, and they have a statue. And in the books, they have a sword. Like, it's the sword going across your lap, which basically means you can go no further. And I wish they would have done that because I know expensive, but it really would have looked cool.
But it's funny when Bran says that Asha seems hesitant and afraid to go down there. And I'm like, well, because those bodies are not burned. And of course, Bran talks about Lyanna. Oh, Robert was supposed to marry her, but then she was kidnapped by Rhaegar. Ugh.
I know. Every time I hear that she was kidnapped by Rhaegar, I'm just like, justice for Rhaegar.
The only reason they talk about him is because he was a bad guy, apparently.
We're going to have to do like a Rhaegar deep dive one day and just do it. I mean, come on, man. A lot of people don't know like what the books tell us and then what you can piece together from like Barristan Selmy and like other things. So
and John Connington.
Yep.
Yeah.
Follow your favorite podcasters on all social media at Southern Mother of Dragons and at the Princess of Dragonstone.
Yeah, Rickon was down there too, and Shaggy Dog was there, and I just said that Shaggy Dog is so savage. I love it.
Man, Shaggy Dog is just like, he's protecting his little boy.
Yes.
Against anybody. Which is great, because poor little Rickon is feral too.
I
Bless his
know, poor
heart.
baby.
I mean, he's probably been hanging out down there in those crypts. Nobody knows where he is. And like they're like, Shaggy Dog's supposed to be chained up, and Rickon's like, he doesn't want to be chained up. He doesn't like it. Rickon's already sassy.
I love it.
As he should be. Rickon is another character that Andrea loves and has really great ideas about, which later on we can make a side note about those, because I wish more people knew. He's not just this little boy that later can't zigzag.
He's not dead in the books.
He
just
is
so
not.
everybody knows.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't George state that Rickon has a large part to play?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So he's important.
He hasn't been seen in the flames yet, but I'm hoping he will be, because I feel like everybody. That's why I think Baelor is real, because I feel like everybody that's seen in the flames, yes, even Victorian Greyjoy, which also isn't in the show, but he's seen in the flames too. I feel like everybody that's seen in the flames play a part. Yep. I do.
Oh yeah, completely. I agree. That's why me and Andrea, like, sometimes we'll be live, or sometimes it's in like content. Somebody will ask us if we had to pick a religion from this world, what we would pick. And R'hllor is usually the first one we say, because I mean, R'hllor actually does things. You see things in the flames. And then obviously Andrea loves the drowned god.
Yes.
Obviously. But you know, the Seven, what do you get from the Seven? Nothing that we've ever seen. Right. So,
or the old gods, apparently.
I mean, I would pick the old gods over the Seven, and I know you would too.
Yes, I would. But according to Jamie, the gods are stupid, so.
You gotta love him.
If you ever call me sister again, I'll have you strangled in your sleep.
It cuts to where Rob's army is, and you see Kat walking. She doesn't want to break down in front of the army, and that I respect, because she waits till she gets to the trees, and then she damn near collapses. She has to grab onto a tree because she has just found out Ned's gone. And we hear a noise, a strange sound, and you really have no idea what it is. Just a loud thump and somebody struggling. And she walks over, and it's Rob just hacking at a tree with his sword.
I said, Rob, you can't kill a tree, but I feel your pain.
Man. Like, my notes say, I can't imagine. Rob did all he could and more. He did.
He did.
He did everything he could. I mean, he called the banners. He won. He was still going, and it didn't save him. And he's so just broken about it. Great acting.
Also, I feel like they don't say it, but I feel like he's also upset because his sisters are still in King's Landing, and like he's probably worried about them too. So it's like a mess, you know?
Yeah, because in his mind, he's like, great, well, they're going to kill my sisters too.
Yeah.
You know, because Ned's not there to protect him, and all of Ned's men are dead, so they have nobody.
They have nothing.
Yep. And he's, he's the heir. So he knows it's all on him now. And it's just a lot of feeling in it. And Richard Madden acted that beautifully. He really did.
He did.
Yep.
How can a man be brave if he's afraid? And that is the only time a man can be brave, he told me.
The next scene, we cut to Marillion, and I really want Andrea to talk about.
Well,
what a dumbass. I'm sorry, he's a dumbass.
He's stupid. I don't know why he chose the song to sing. Oh, I know why. Because they didn't show it, but I guess they like brought him in because he was singing this in the tavern.
Yeah.
That's what Jocelyn says.
Yeah, he was just singing it, just letting anybody hear.
Which he shouldn't have, because like he's an idiot. But so he sings the song about Robert's death with a boar. He basically talks shit about a lion in Robert's bed, talking about the boar, there is a murderous lion in my bed. The lion ripped his balls off, and the
boar did the rest.
The boar did the rest. Circe's reaction, like, she doesn't speak in this scene, but the way that like, Lena Headey, man, she's really good at facial expressions.
Yes.
And I thought that Joffrey was going to be pissed off for his mom's part, because this is obviously about her. But no. It's about his dad. He doesn't like that.
Which I think that backs up my feeling that he wanted Ned dead because Robert was so fond of Ned, and Joffrey, he's angry because why didn't my father love me, and why did he love you so much?
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. But, my favorite part of this scene is when Joffrey is leaning back and he is clapping.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, that is such a good song, isn't it? What a great song. Like, he's being so fake. It's really good acting. And it's my favorite gift to use sometimes too, when he's just clapping, because he's got this this bratty look on his face. He's so good in that scene.
Well, you know what that is. That is literally Joffrey inventing the slow clap.
Yes.
So
But
I'm giving him credit for that.
Giving him credit, and he's very mocking, and it's just, that's exactly how he needs to be. And like, I like how he says, do you prefer your fingers or your tongue?
Look, Jack Gleason that played Joffrey is one of the sweetest people ever. What a hell of an actor, man. Ugh.
And this fan base is the reason why he didn't act for several years, but
I know, and that's just continuing today. Not necessarily to him, but
I didn't see that with Ramsay. I didn't see I don't think he has any social media, so probably not. But not that I wanted him to get hate or anything, but like, these people are just people. They're not the characters. The characters don't exist, so like, it just makes me sad, because you can still like a villain, you can still like them, and that's okay, but don't hate on the person because they're awful.
Well, I mean, I know they say every fandom has issues, but Andrea and I, like, we'll catch hell over a character, and somebody will just lay into me or her, and it's just savage, and it's like where's that even coming from? Like, what? Like, come on, man. I can't imagine what the actors get if we get that much.
Yes, exactly. And then Merlion one is his hands. Like, he says, well, a man needs his hands. So Joffrey has Sir Ilan fitting to cut out his tongue.
Yep, because Sir Ilan has no tongue.
And you know why that was? Because the Mad King cut his tongue out because he thought heard he was talking crap about him. So he's just like, I'm just going to cut your tongue out.
Was Ilan
Yeah.
Payne one of the ones that was saying that Tywin was the one that really ruled the realm?
Yes.
There you go. Not a smart thing to say.
Nope, and playing this song in King's Landing is not smart either. But so after that, Sansa's there. He does give her a compliment, and I really think he meant that compliment. I don't think he was trying to be mean. Joffrey says she looks quite nice. I believe that he meant that.
Yeah. Because he had no reason to not. I mean, like, he didn't have to say that. So yeah, you're probably right. He probably did mean it.
Which she did, but at the same time, she kind of looked like she was
miserable,
sick. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so they go for a walk, and he just so monotonely says, Mother said that you're going to bleed soon, and once you bleed, I'm going to have to put a son in you. And I'm like, yay.
I mean, just matter of fact, like, he's talking about, yeah, well, I have a book I'd like to give you. I mean, he just says it like that. It's just matter of fact.
It's just casual, and but it's like, really? The way that you talk about putting a kid in me is not romantic. Not that you're romantic, but you know what I mean? Like, this is not what I expected.
I mean, it just shows, like, he's about to show multiple heads of people that Sansa cared for, and he's just straight up saying, like, oh yeah, by the way, you're gonna have my kids.
Yeah. Oh, and here's your dad. Take a look.
Look, Sophie did such a good job in the scene. She did such a good job because it
She did.
goes from like shock and completely disgusted to revenge, basically.
Yeah.
He points out
And
Ned's head and he points out the septa.
and did you notice Ned had like some haircuts, so they did a really good job with detail.
They really did. Good point. Very good point.
Yeah, I was like, why does his hair look short? Oh, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. Oh man, I didn't even think about that, but good eye.
I try not to look at the heads, just especially the septas, because she didn't do anything. None of them did anything wrong, but it just makes me sad. And Sansa feels really bad after she sees her septa. She looks at her again, I think, because either that or her dad. Either way, I think she feels really bad because of what the last conversation they had. She wasn't very nice to her.
You want me to give you a little tidbit that I thought of?
Yes.
In the books at Winterfell, we learn that whenever they have, dinner, Ned made a point to have a different man sit next to him. So he stayed close with his people, right? Which is really smart.
Yes.
And those men went with him to King's Landing. Sansa knew all those heads because she would have seen her father sit with each one of them at some point.
That makes it even sadder.
I know.
More
I'm
sad.
sorry. I'm sorry, but like that's just one of those things that, and I had to say it because
But
that's how Ned was. He knew his people,
yep.
and it makes it more heartbreaking. So virtually every head up there, she knows who it is.
And I really like I really like this scene because Joffrey says, after I raise my armies and kill your traitor brother, I'm going to give you his head. And she goes, or maybe he'll give me yours.
I was shocked she said it, man.
The look on his face, was like, what? And I'm sorry, I hate Sir and Trant, but like this, they don't show this very often, but in the books, Joffrey buys her clothing to cover up the bruises and the cuts that Sir Trant or whoever he has, whatever Kingsguard he has, to hit her in the face or arms. Actually, he doesn't ever hit her in the face. He always hits her on the body. So I was really shocked that, because I didn't read the books prior to the show, obviously, but reading the books, I was really shocked that he only hit her in the arms and not the face because he didn't want anybody to see the abuse.
Well, and Andrea and I had a conversation months ago about this, and we both agreed the only reason he even knew to do that is because he probably saw his mother cover up things from Robert.
Yeah. And Sir Meryn Trant likes to hit kids. We noticed that later in the seasons.
Yeah, he's disgusting.
Yes.
He is just, and the actor that plays him has that smug face. He does a really good job because, I hate him.
Yes, he made me hate him too. He's gross. But I just really like that scene, and I like that Sansa will try to kill him and Joffrey, and she should have that there.
Her face is tilted down, and she's looking up. And she's got this look,
Yeah,
it's so well acted.
she did such a good job in that scene,
and she's about to push him too.
She was gonna do it, but then obviously, the Hound stops her, which he was really good in that scene.
Yep.
He only has a couple of lines, but he gives her like what I would call a handkerchief, even though they didn't have handkerchiefs then. But he tells her that she's going to need it again, and to do his bidding because you're going to be in a lot of pain if you don't.
Yeah, we realize who Meryn Trant is, and we realize who the Hound is in that moment.
Much better person than Sir Meryn Trant.
And it's like the Hound, you can even hear it in his voice. It's sadness of like, this is the most I can do because God knows I can't save her. So we see her by herself, just staring and just realizing what her life is. It's very, very, very well acted, but also very, very sad.
My husband is my king, and my king is my husband.
So we go back to Rob's army, and they have Jamie, obviously, and there's a debate about who they might ally with, who is the rightful heir, and Rob thinks the same thing that Ned did. Stannis is obviously, the next in line because Robert's quote unquote children are illegitimate, so Stannis is older than Renly. But it kind of goes back and forth a bit, and you think it's gonna really be an issue. But then Andrew's fave, the Great John, starts talking. Do you want to talk about what he said?
So he basically says the North used to rule themselves.
Yep.
And, like we bent the knee to the dragons, and the dragons are dead. So,
yeah.
And I'm like, that's really sad. That made me really sad, but that's true. They ruled themselves before the dragons, and they only bent their knee to the dragons. They didn't bend the knee to anybody else. So all these like fake people on the throne before the dragons and after the dragons don't matter. Only the dragons did. And that makes me really think they have some kind of writing between Torrhen Stark and Aegon the Conqueror. I feel like there's something there.
Look, he means that. It was the dragons we bowed to, and now the dragons are dead. That means the Great John and the other lords in the north, they feel like after Ares that that was a usurper. They do feel that. This proves that. It proves it. And even, like we talked about it, Robert, like he said, what was it? That they had purpose, but like not after the Mad King.
Yeah.
All of this is just backup of Robert usurped. He shouldn't have been on that throne. That was supposed to be Rhaegar.
Even Pycelle in this episode talks about how like winning the throne and ruling it is two different things. So it's
Yep. It's incredible though, because we get this perspective, and the Great John's just not throwing something out that only he believes. No. He's speaking for everyone. And he's basically saying, since we have no dragon, the only person I'm following is Rob, the king in the north.
I know no king but the king in the north.
I mean, it's incredible because it's basically saying, I have nothing for any of these others. Nothing. And he's not wrong, though. He's not.
But it's funny because you got Stannis and Renly, and they're trying to be kings, and then the North's just like, nah, we're not going to bend the knees to you. No, nobody likes the Baratheons.
And that, you can put that on Robert. I fully believe that the perception of the Baratheons is because of Robert at this point, because we know Oris Baratheon. I mean, come on.
He was good.
Yeah. So, and like Andrea brings up, the Baratheons have Targaryen blood, so the irony's hilarious. They forget that though. So it's a very powerful scene. I teared up. The King in the North, the King in the North. He is the young wolf. It's like, oh man. And Cat looks a little worried and then proud. I would probably be throwing up somewhere because I would know, okay, this is going really far. I'd probably be terrified.
That's how I felt when Jon becomes King of the North. Like, I cried. I was happy for him because it fits. But then I was like, oh, I don't want the same thing to happen to you that happened to Rob.
Yeah, because what is it? Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Like when he went to King's Landing with Dany, I was like, no, I don't want either of you going to King's Landing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just, nobody, Stark never survives on King's Landing anyway, so that freaked me out. And then Daenerys, I just didn't want her to go.
Me neither. But I do remember in the books, the crown that Rob wears is the old crown of the Kings of Winter, and like the North, it's not ornate. Like, it's made out of what, like iron, I think?
Yeah.
And it's like meant to be, strong and practical, just like, the people in the North. Like, it's strong, it's iron. You can depend on it, but it's not flashy, and neither are they. One thing I will say, I wanted Grey there when he's proclaimed king in the North. So that irritated me, but fine. I'm just gonna
Yes.
pretend it was dark. I'm gonna pretend like Grey was there and we just didn't see him.
Valar Morghulis.
Kat goes to see Jamie, and I get why she's doing this, and I get why she tells the guards to leave. She wants to know why. Jamie starts off like basically like, "Hey, come down here to get laid," and I'm like, "Oh God."
He says some
Uh,
interesting stuff in this scene.
he does. I mean, he's being Jamie, so he's gonna throw shots, and that's exactly what he does. And because this is when he says, "Did your husband's tree god save him?"
I like when he says widowhood but becomes her.
Oh,
He just died. Like, are you kidding me?
and
Oh,
he's being such an ass.
I
So
love.
it's really interesting because after they kind of have that back and forth, she asks him, "Did you push my son?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she goes, her voice changes, everything changes. She goes, "Why?" It's not anger, it's why. It's pain. It's so, oh, the acting is so good and it's so subtle. But like even her shoulders slump. Like, why would you do that to him? And then you see Jamie has regret. He can't tell her. He can't
Nope.
say it. And he immediately says, "You should get some sleep." And his voice changes.
Yeah.
He cannot tell her why. He also has a really cool line when she's talking to him and she says something like, "Men like you." And he says, "There are no men like me, only me." And I think he means that, not in an arrogant way, though.
No.
I think he says that because of all the stuff that he's seen.
Yeah.
And he's just different. But that's the first time we really see regret for pushing Bran, and it's definitely there. But see, he's
Yes.
better when he's away from Cersei, just like in the books.
He does feel bad about Ned too.
Yeah, he does. And Jamie's using sarcasm and being an asshole as a shield at this point.
I like when she hits him with the rock and he's like, "Oh, I love a violent woman."
There you go. And that's his only weapon right now, so he's using it.
The things I do for love.
Okay. Lancel is naked and he looks like a string bean. I'm not body shaming. It's just shocking to the eyes.
Well, and he fills out later. Like
He
the actor fills
does.
out.
But he looks so young and naked. It's just like, why?
And it makes
Why?
it makes it creepy. I mean, I'm not even thinking about the fact that they're cousins because I don't care. But like, it makes it creepy because she's a lot older than him.
I know. That's what totally creeped me out. He looks like a string bean because he looks like young, like he hasn't filled out, like he's in the teenage stage of when they just get tall. And he's naked, and I'm like, what?
And he's very confident in that scene. So I have a feeling this was not the first time.
I agree. It's just because he's naked, and then he walks behind her, and he makes a statement. What does he say?
Oh, have we captured Rob Stark yet? Before that, he says, "I can't believe we're actually going to war."
And he's like, "Is this what it was like when you were young?" And she has a look.
That just shows you that she's too old for him.
It's creepy. It's very creepy because he does look young. Like he looks what, 15, maybe?
Yes.
And that's me being nice. So we have that. And I actually wrote Lancel looks so young and put like a face.
But she got the news that Jamie was taken because, I mean, that's the only reason why she looks like that.
Yep.
Tywin says that they have my son. He says that quite a couple of times in this scene. And when he says they have my son, I'm like, you mean they have your heir? Because he's not going to name Tyrion or Cersei his heir. There's no way. So even though Jamie can't have any lands, titles, get married, or have any kids, he's betting his everything on Jamie.
His
So he's
favorite.
very upset that they have him.
Yep.
That's his legacy.
Exactly. Tywin is all about legacy. That's his thing. And Andrew and I both think that Tywin was going to figure out some way to get Jamie out of the Kingsguard.
Yeah, and I like how they talk about the Baratheons are against them, and that's funny because it's family. So anyway,
Yeah.
so Sir Kevin says one of the dumbest things ever, in my opinion. I love Sir Kevin, but he says we should sue for peace.
Says that to Tywin.
To Tywin, and Tyrion, like, there's your piece. He like knocks a glass of wine. Tyrion knocks a glass of wine off the table or something like that off the table, and
no,
says,
you're right. Yeah,
he said that your piece went when Joffrey killed Ned.
He's right.
Yeah.
And what does he say? Like, it'd be easier to drink from that shattered glass than to get peace now.
Yes. I mean, but he says but Sir Kevin also says another dumb thing. We have their daughters. Yes, you have one daughter actually, but go ahead.
Exactly. And to be honest with you, Tyrion's pretty brave because he actually says he's winning in case you hadn't noticed.
Yeah,
I was like,
this was
damn,
my
Tyrion.
favorite Tyrion. This was my favorite Tyrion right here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's not holding back at all, and it's right in front of his dad. So
Nope. Smartest man in the room, I think. I mean, I think Tywin's pretty smart too, but right now he's kind of crazy. So I think Tyrion is the smartest one. And Tywin says that he's going to send Sir Gregor with 500 riders and set the Riverlands on fire, which I got really pissed about, from the God's Eye to the Red Fork. Do you know how much land that is? That is a lot of land. I've looked at it on the map. It is ridiculous amounts of land. You're going to kill a lot of people for Jamie. I get it. That's your son. I would do anything for my son, but I wouldn't kill innocent people.
Look, it's the Riverlands because that's House Tully. Okay, fine. But what a lot of people probably don't know, we joke about it, but it actually is sad. The Riverlands strategically are in a very bad spot. They don't have anything that protects them or keeps people out. They're just out in the open. It is what it is. And that's why the Riverlands pay for whatever squabble over and over and over. And Andrew will tell you the Riverlands get destroyed. I mean, how many times in Fire and Blood?
Several. I mean, Maegor sets it on fire.
Yep.
I think Aegon has set it on fire several times. Aemond sets it on fire a lot throughout the dance. We'll see more often than not that he likes to set things on fire. So yeah, a lot of times.
Yep, Aemon goes and just sets fire to the innocent people in the Riverlands more than once.
And by the way, the God's Eye is the river outside of Harrenhal, so that's a really far distance of land that they're going to destroy. So I wouldn't want to live in the Riverlands.
No, they have no protection, basically. None.
But Tyrion is going to be sent to King's Landing to deal, because he agrees with Tyrion about Ned being what they needed to broker. And he was right about that. And he's like, I'm going to send you to be the hand of the king in my stead, because I need you to go there and bring the boy king to heal and his mother, which I thought was really funny. And Tyrion's just like, well, why me? You're my son. See how inconsistent he is?
Well, Andrew and I talked about that earlier because that is something that doesn't make sense. The only thing we can think of is Tywin is thinking Jaime's as good as dead. So he knows his only heir is Tyrion. And so he completely changes when everybody goes away and it's just him and Tyrion. And he even pours Tyrion a glass of wine, and you can see the look on Tyrion's face that this is unprecedented.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's sad because I don't even think this is real when he's being nice to him. I think this is desperation. He can't bear to not have his legacy.
Nope. And he can't take Shay. So
yeah, you will not take that whore to court.
It's a Targaryen alone in the world. It's a terrible thing.
Okay, this is completely heartbreaking. We're back in the Dothraki Sea, and Jorah is watching over Daenerys. She wakes up and she immediately asks for her son. And Jorah doesn't know what to say. And Mary Mazdur comes in and she says that Rhaego was monstrous, lizard-like creature who was already dead when she pulled him free. And she's smiling a bit when she says all this. It just... And she says, I warned you that only death can pay for life. You knew the price. And Daenerys is just... I don't even know how she can speak. But she looks and she says, show him to me. Show me what I bought with my son's life. And she's so angry.
I have no problem with her being angry. That makes a lot of sense.
Look, Miri also said that he had grave worms inside of him. Is any of it true what she says? Is she lying about all of it? Like, I don't know.
I think she is. I don't think she's telling the truth. Maybe the skin part, but I don't think he looked like a dragon or a bat or whatever, because it's like said he had leather wings like a bat. I don't think so.
I'll tell you why I think she's lying. Later on, she says he will burn no cities, that he will not be the stallion that mounts the world. Okay, well, if he had all those issues, you had nothing to worry about. So why say that later? Because he didn't.
Nope.
She's an evil liar.
Evil. She doesn't think he was innocent, which I'm like, how do you know he's going to turn out like that? And she does have a son that leads the army and does a lot of things.
Yeah, but here's what I want to know. What did that bitch do with his body?
Why did Jorah let her take the body?
I think Jorah's just in shock, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And just trying to make sure nobody kills her. Because, you know, at that time, that's when the Khalasar starts leaving. So he's trying to make sure nobody comes for her. He's overwhelmed as hell. Broken and sad because he loves her. But we never find out what happens to Rhaego's body. And I really feel like there's a reason we don't know. That's all I'm going to say. So we go see Drogo, and he's out by himself in the sun, just staring into space.
He's gone.
Yeah, he's gone. He's a vegetable, basically, what we would say. And Miri Mazur says, you paid for life. See what life is worth when all the rest is gone. It's so gross. And Daenerys, she's just trying to make sense of it. And she's like, but I saved you. Why? And she's like, oh, you saved me? 3 men had already gone before the fourth that you stopped. And then she says that she saw her village burn, the house of her god burn. She saw the heads of her people, the people she knew, and a boy that she had nursed through a fever. And I mean, I don't think she's lying about that.
No, but I get that, but it wouldn't have stopped at him. Other things would have happened. It's just kind of ridiculous to go through all this trouble just to kill one guy.
I guess Miri Mazdur believed in the prophecy. That's all I can figure. Because she says that there will be no stallion that mounts the world.
But there's a dragon that is a stallion that mounts the world, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, we'll get into that. Hell yeah, there is.
You're a Targaryen.
You're the mother of dragons.
I need to be more than that.
There's a lot of talk about what she says next because Daenerys asks, "When will he come back to me?" And Miri says, "When the sun rises in the west and sets in the east, when the seas go dry, when the mountains blow and the wind like leaves." Now, in the book, there's another one. She says, "When your womb quickens again and you bear a living child, then he will return to you and not before." A lot of people have debated what this prophecy could mean. The first part is the one that I think is the most genius that people have a theory about. When the sun rises in the west and sets in the east, people think that's Quentin Martell because, he comes from Dorne and he's going east. And,
But he's dead.
Yep. So he would be setting in the east.
Okay.
So I think that's incredibly clever.
Yeah.
In a George thing, definitely. So the next one, when the seas go dry, when Daenerys goes back to the Dothraki Sea, like winter is coming, or at least fall. So that could be the browning of the Dothraki Sea because the grass is dying. The one that people get stuck on is when the mountains blow and the wind like leaves. That one is difficult, and nobody's really come up with a super solid guess on that I've ever seen. Some people think like the mountain is in Gregor, but like it's plural. So the best theory I've ever seen is that the mountains blow in the wind like leaves refers to the pyramids of Marine. That could be a thing, but that's the only one that's even like a maybe.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe. And then when your womb quickens again and you bear a living child, a lot of people think that she is miscarrying at the end of Dance.
Yeah, but a lot of people are saying that's because she can't have kids, and I'm like, I don't think that. I think she'll be able to have kids.
Yeah, she's miscarrying because she ate those berries. And there's a theory on that. Those berries are an ingredient to moon tea, and she didn't know. That I can see, definitely, because it's right after the berries. That's enough about Miri Mazdor before I get riled up.
All men must die, but we are not men.
Next is Castle Black. John's angry and Sam doesn't want him to go. I don't blame John. I don't. They killed Ned. He doesn't know where his sisters are, and his brother that he loves very much has an army. I don't blame John for leaving.
But I like when Ghost runs after him, like, I'm coming to you.
Yeah, I put a note with, John leaves with Ghost. Yay.
I love that. But yeah, when they stop him, I like when they when they get him to stop. Sam runs into something, that guy, I swear. And then I'm like, did you not see something that, hey, whatever.
It's
But I
very
like
Sam of him.
I know, but I like that they repeated the words to him because, hey, we're your brothers now, we're your family, which makes a lot of sense.
It does.
And
It was really sweet, actually.
But I like when they use the words, and I always will pick up on the shields that guard the realms of men. I'm like, yeah, realms of men, whatever. Anyway,
not just one.
Nope. But John is going to go back, obviously, and this is what Aemon was talking about. Maester Aemon said he has to make a choice, whatever that choice is, you have to make it, and he decides to go back. He decides. I know he said his friends made him come back, but it was John's decision. So
it was ultimately his decision. He could have kept going. So
let the boy die and the man live.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
The next scene, we go back to Daenerys with Drogo, and she's trying anything she possibly can to just get any kind of reaction out of him. It's heartbreaking. And
I like that she watches him.
Yeah. In the books, obviously you get more time, so you get more information. God bless her. She even tries to get him aroused. She tries anything she possibly can, just anything, and nothing works. And she's with him for a really long time. You can't tell that in the show, but she
No.
is.
She really
And
loves him, though.
yes, very much. And she knows that he's gone. He's not there anymore. And she puts a pillow over his face, and he doesn't even really struggle. He just makes involuntary muscle movement.
Yeah.
And in the books, like she bathes him, she oils his hair, brushes it, all that, and makes sure that he looks like he should, like Drogo. And what's really, really sad is her life has been so damn hard, and she doesn't even have Rhaego to give her hope at this point. She's very strong. I will say that.
You're learning to talk like a queen.
Not a queen. A Khaleesi.
Now, if you don't mind, would you talk about Pycelle?
Yeah, that was an interesting scene. So
Yeah.
he just had some time with the lady of the evening,
Mm-hmm.
and which is Roz, and I feel bad for Roz. I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know how
man.
she, but it's interesting. She lets him talk. I mean, you kind of have to in that position, but he talks about how there's something about kings that he was going to say, but he never repeated it again. So it's really want to know what he wanted to say. But he said that he is 67, and he has been he's worked for as many kings as anyone has seen alive, and he talked about Aerys. He worked for Aerys Targaryen, and he talked about his madness and how it was the worst. He was good though at one point, and he was charming, and it was hard for him to watch him melt away because he was consumed by dreams of fire and blood.
What that made me think of first is, do you remember when Dorea was telling Daenerys that she had heard stories, and she tried to explain to Daenerys because she's like, how did you get that out of him? And she's like, men talk when they're happy. Okay, that's what Roz is doing. She's already spying for Littlefinger. That's why
I think
Roz is with Pycelle.
she's so smart.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, this is when he talks about how now Robert is different. Robert was vastly different from the Mad King, and but see, winning a kingdom and ruling are different things. And he talked about how enemies blind at the side. So I'm assuming he's talking about the Lannisters in a way.
Yep. Yes,
And
I
I'm
think
like,
so.
you are just playing the game. I mean, you're saying stuff that you shouldn't be saying, but you're saying it anyway.
We get a lot of information out of what he just says,
Yeah.
but everything he says about Ares is he turned that way. He wasn't always mad. And people act like he was just mad the entire time. Pycelle verifies it happened to him. He was different before. So I don't know why people think oh, the Mad King, he was always crazy. Apparently not, because that's Grand Maester Pycelle saying that madness is the cruelest thing that can happen to you.
And he said he was charming at one point. So yeah, he wasn't always like this.
He wasn't. And he was not, because he said he was a good man, such a charmer.
Yeah. And he also said that Joffrey has a strong military mind. I'm like, how?
I think that one he's lying about. The previous ones, I think he was telling the truth. But Joffrey, yeah, he's not stupid. He
I'm
wouldn't say
like,
anything
how? I mean,
negative.
unless he paid attention to what his dad was saying, which I really don't believe that. He might have, though. Honestly, Joffrey might have. But see, when we see him do the Battle of the Blackwater, he doesn't even get involved because he's scared. So that's why I don't really believe the strong military mind. But anyway, I just wanted to say quickly that he's like a spring chicken, Maester Pycelle, because he after Roz leaves, he's doing some kind of whatever he's doing with his legs, stretching and acting like he's okay, like he's healthy for his 67-year-old self. And he goes and puts on his Maester uniform, and then when he opens the door, he slouches. Somebody tell me why he does that.
Okay. That's why the deleted scene between him and Tywin should not have been deleted. That scene is very important because it explains that. It should have been kept in. If y'all haven't seen it, look it up. It's on YouTube. It's an incredible scene. Tywin is fishing. Pycelle comes up like stuttering, and Tywin finally just turns around. He's like, "Aren't you tired of doing that?" And Pycelle immediately straightens up and has no stutter. It's all an act so that people don't feel threatened by him, and they think he's just a half-deaf old man, so they say things around him.
Do you think that's why when Roz asks him what is the thing about kings, because you were trying to say, and then he was like, what, like he was acting like he couldn't hear her?
Yes, unless he's alone in his room, he acts like that.
I think he realized he said too much, or he said enough that he didn't need to say anymore or something.
Oh yeah, he was running his mouth because, like Doria said, happy men talk.
It was a good scene.
It was. But I really do wish they had kept in the scene with Pycelle and Tywin, because it does give a lot of explanation.
Yeah.
But they didn't ask us.
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.
Oh, God.
More staring at the throne.
Yeah. So Littlefinger and Varys are staring at the throne. I really didn't notice how often people stare at that damn throne until you pointed it out. Jesus Christ. It's a bit absurd. And Littlefinger, he just starts asking Varys if he has certain parts, and I'm like, oh, okay.
I was like, did we really need this conversation? Because it really didn't bring anything to the table other than apparently they respect each other. Like, that's it.
Yep. So it's Littlefinger kind of trying to figure out what Varys' motives are, and then it just turns into genital jokes. So yeah, that's that scene.
Well, I do want to say quickly, when Joffrey comes in, I think it's awesome that Joffrey's going to a small council meeting because his dad never did. So that shows that he did intend to actually do something about being a king, not just sit around and not do anything. So I'm not saying he's a good person. I'm not saying he's a good king, because he's not. But he does he tries in the beginning, it seems like. And I like his outfit. They gave him an outfit for that tiny little scene. Mm-hmm. Like, they showed him. They could have just said Joffrey's coming. They didn't have to show Joffrey. They did that for a reason, and he looked good.
You are really perceptive, because you always point out that Joffrey actually asked about Daenerys and the dragons later on.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's the only one worried about it.
Uh-huh. And Andrea... When the sparrows show up, Andrew always wishes it was Joffrey.
Well, I mean, Tommen doesn't do anything. He's got the Tyrell army. Tyrell army. What? You're married to a Tyrell. Your wife. Anyway, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Like, Tommen is a boy, like little boy, I know, but he was just not good at this.
But Marjorie would have made the decisions and it would have been fine, but...
I am the king!
Any man who must say, I am the king, is no true king.
Next we go to Arya, who is now known as Ari. And we really do get a really good idea of what the Watch is, because it's kids, and then it's like the worst of the worst from the Black Cells.
Yeah, because you see like 2 cards full of people that look not so great, and then you see the kids, which I loved seeing Hot Pie. I love Hot Pie. I know he's kind of a jerk at first, but he's so good.
I mean, and being a jerk at first makes sense, because like, you don't know these people and you don't want him to mess with you, so he's just doing his thing.
Yeah, and he lied about everything he said. He's like, "Oh, I killed somebody. I stomped him to death." And Arya is so smart. She's like, "You're a liar." and that's when I knew they were going to be friends. I was like, they're going to be best friends by the end of this, aren't they? Because there's just no way. And Gendry, of course, is there. He said that his master didn't want him anymore, and I don't believe that. He was getting him out of there because so many people are asking about him, that he knew that somebody was going to come after him, so he probably sent him to the wall.
Exactly, because Robert's dead and Gendry would have no protection, and Ned's dead.
and Ned's dead, so there's nothing for him here.
Ned was the last one that was going to protect him. And so, because, I mean, Ned said if he ever wants to do something different, send him to me. He finds out Ned's dead, and he's like, you got to go.
Gotta
And,
go to the wall.
yep. So he really cared.
Yes. And I just love Gendry. I think he's really good in the first couple of seasons.
Yeah, no, he's great. I mean, he's another character that, the writing dipped for him later on. But no, he's really good.
And if you guys didn't know, the winter is coming. I don't know if anybody told anybody, but winter is coming.
Are you sure?
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
It'll be 8 seasons, but yeah, winter's coming.
Yeah. Because we get, come on, you sorry sons of whores. It's 1,000 leagues from here to the wall, and winter's coming. Obviously. So next we have John. Yeah.
I love this. I cry at the scene every time.
Yeah, John looks like shit because he hasn't had any sleep, but you point out a lot of good stuff about this scene. Talk about it. Like, it's more emotional than I think some people realize.
Yes, it's so Gior is telling him that like he knew that he left. He asked how his ride was, and and John's like looks freaked out, obviously, and he's like, "Hey, if we beheaded everybody that ran away, only ghosts would guard the wall." And I love that line. It's very true. And hey, a lot of the castles on the wall are haunted, so but I like how he says, at least you didn't go whoring in Molestown. And I'm like, hey, all your superior officers go down there and whore around. So how is that fair?
Yeah, he knows.
But he talks about how their tribes of wildlings are joining together and there's fires beyond the wall. And we know that it's because they're all coming together for something, right? So they're all going to start talking about the king beyond the wall here soon. And then he mentioned that Eastwatch, Cotter Pike's men said that they found blue-eyed corpses. So he saw four blue-eyed corpses, and Gior's like, "Hey, we're gonna go beyond the wall and find out what's going on." So he asks John if his brother's war is more important than this. Our fight beyond the wall, is this war? Our war is more important than their war, and I agree, it is.
Yeah, because he's talking about all of humanity.
Yes. They have to protect everybody from what's going on. There's a lot of stuff happening. If the wildlings are gathering and they've already seen a White Walker before, and then Eastwatch is seeing White Walkers, hey, this is happening. Yep. So John makes the decision and goes with him. And I cried because I'm like, he's always wanted to be important. He's always wanted to be seen as important. And yes, he wanted to be a ranger. This isn't necessarily ranging, but it's something, and it's good.
Hell, it's kind of beyond ranging at this point.
Yeah, and the fact that he entrusts John to do it is just, I love that.
And that's a huge decision to make. Huge, because he wants to go help Rob. I mean, he doesn't know where his sisters are, but John makes the choice, you're right. And that shouldn't be taken lightly at all.
No. And he gets what he wants, so that's good.
He does. And he also knows either something attacked his uncle, or maybe he could even find him. So
because they're gonna go look for they're gonna go find his uncle too, or gonna try to. So yeah.
He wants, because think about it, like, since Ned's gone, he must want to see Benjen real bad.
And we don't see Benjen for like the longest time.
Yeah,
so weird.
It's kind of heartbreaking.
Winter is coming.
The next theme, I'm going to do my best, Andrew. If I get sniffly, then you're just going to take over. It'll be fine. So Daenerys has on her wedding dress, and she looks absolutely beautiful. And she is having them build a funeral pyre for Khal Drogo. And she has requested that the eggs be placed in the pyre. And Jorah is like, you don't need to do that, because, I mean, we can buy a ship or whatever. And she simply says, they were not given to me to sell. Okay, that statement to me, that's verification. She has dreamed this. She knows exactly what to do. And she knows that those eggs are supposed to go in the flames.
You
So,
know, when a lot of people say that the dragons are dead, I always say they're sleeping, just like the White Walkers were sleeping, because they were just stones. They may have not hatched, but that doesn't mean they're dead.
that's a really good point, Andrea, because she dreams of what we know now is Drogon. And she dreams of, like, things moving in the egg. So you're right, they are sleeping. That's a very good point.
Yes,
Good
because
job. Hell
they
yeah.
wake up.
They do. So Jorah is completely distraught, and for good reason from his point of view. And he gives this line, and it's so incredibly well acted. Don't ask me to stand aside as you climb on that pyre. I won't watch you burn. And she looks at him because it had not occurred to her that he doesn't know what she knows. And she said, is that what you fear? But she doesn't give him an answer either. So then she turns to her people that are left, and she says, you will be my Khalasar. I see the faces of slaves. I free you. Take off your collars. Go if you wish. No one will stop you. But if you stay, it will be as brothers and sisters, as husbands and wives. Some of them do leave, and Miri Mazdur laughs about it.
She's such a Anyway.
Yeah, she's a
I really
bitch.
like Danny's hair. By the way, it's beautiful. Her
It
hair is
is.
beautiful.
That's a really good point. She has her hair completely pulled back in a braid. So we're used to seeing it down, and this is one of the moments that it's all the way back in a braid, and it is beautiful. And it's not perfect either, because like the wind's blowing and everything. So you're right.
It's
It is
beautiful.
different. Yeah. So after Miri laughs, Daenerys tells Jorah to bind her to the pyre, and she gives the speech that everyone has heard, I don't know how many times. I didn't, I mean, I wrote it and I didn't even have to hear it. And that says a lot that so many people know this part. I am Daenerys Stormborn of House Targaryen, of the blood of old Valyria. I am the dragon's daughter, and I swear to you that those who would harm you will die screaming.
I used to have a poster of this scene with her dragons, and it had that quote on there, but my brother destroyed it. So I don't have that poster anymore. I had it framed.
And we need to find that poster. I bet they still make it.
I'm sure they do, but it's my favorite poster. Somebody gave it to me for my birthday because I was a really big fan of the show at the time. I mean, I'm still am, but you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like,
yeah. Like when you're right into the show, like you're just obsessed with it. You're just like, I need to live this Targaryen life. I
yeah,
mean, God, you're preaching to the choir.
that was my first nerdy anything. Like, I was so proud of it because she's beautiful and the dragons were cute, and then it's a very powerful scene.
It
Yeah,
is. I don't like it when people take the part, and I swear to you that those who would harm you will die screaming, and they try to turn that into something. No, that is, I will protect you at any cost. And
but
she wants them to see that she's strong.
yes, and I also like how when she says "you will die screaming," Mary's like, "You're not going to hear me scream."
Oh, I knew you. I put a star because I knew you'd love that part. Because she's all like, "You will not hear me scream," and Daenerys says, "I will."
And we do.
Oh, we do, and it's satisfying. But
It's
how hardcore is the next line? But it's not your screams I want, only your life.
I love that because it's like life pays for death.
On that note, and I swear to God, if I see anybody post what I'm about to say, it just you will die screaming. Don't you dare. And thanks for listening.
Zadrizes Buzdaris Daur.
We have Drogo in the pyre, right? And
Yes.
Rhaego has recently passed. Okay, think about this for a second. I just want to throw this out there for you. Most people say that Drogo, Miri Mazdor, and Rhaego are the 3 deaths that pay for life. I want to say this to you, and I want to know what you think. So, what if it's this? What if it doesn't matter? Like, time doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't have to be like a death that just happened. What if Drogo's death paid for Drogon? Rhaego's death paid for Rhaegal. What if Viserys' death paid for Viserion?
Yeah. Yes.
Wouldn't that make more sense than Miri Mazdor paying for one of them?
Yeah, Mary Mazdor was just a means to an end that needed to die. Like that's Dany's justice for what happened to Drago. For Drogo and for Rhaego. I don't think it had anything to do with the dragons.
I agree, and there's a lot of theories about her, but like I don't think her death paid for any of the dragons. She's not attached to them. She's just not. Now, maybe her death, like, maybe it's magic. It adds magic, but.
I mean, yes, it helps with the magic part, but I don't think, because Daenerys is magic in itself, so I don't think that her death had anything to do with why the dragons decided to hatch. I just don't believe that.
I agree. I completely
that
agree.
Gives her too much. I'm not giving her credit for anything. No.
It never made sense to me because Drogo would pay for Drogon and then Rhaego would pay for Rhaegal. And I think Viserys is the one that pays for Viserion, even though that happened in the past.
Yeah.
It's
I
magic.
Don't think it matters. Yeah, it's magic.
Yeah. So you like that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Because that's my little thing. And slightly makes me feel better about all the rest. Oh, this is so emotional. So she steps into the pyre and she goes to Drogo. And I mean, can you imagine? Like, the first time you watch it, like, you have no idea what's going to happen. My God. Talk about fantastic TV.
Yeah, because, I mean, yeah, she touched heat before. She's been in hot water, but I didn't think she would be full on not burnt. Like, I didn't know what to expect.
Exactly. So the next scene is everything's burned. It's dawn, and there's just ashes everywhere. And Jorah walks over, and you start to understand what you're looking at, and it is a naked Daenerys bent over, and she starts to straighten out. Her wedding gown has been burnt away, and as Jorah approaches, you see something kind of in her lap, and you're like, wait, what? And then she straightens up more, and Drogon climbs up onto her shoulder, and he stretches out his wings, and you have absolutely no doubt, oh my God, it's the dragons. They've hatched. And Viserion is wrapped around her leg. And this scene is just absolutely beautiful. The CGI is beautiful. The dragons look beautiful. And Jorah and all the rest of the Khalasar fall to their knees in awe.
I think it's very fitting that Drogon is on top of her shoulder and that Rhaegal, she's holding Rhaegal. Like, it just made me cry.
Well, I have to add this because I just have to. In the book, I just want to read this part because it's just very powerful. So, as Daenerys Targaryen rose to her feet, her black hissed, pale smoke venting from its mouth and nostrils. The other two pulled away from her breasts and added their voices to the call, translucent wings unfolding and stirring in the air. And for the first time in hundreds of years, the night came alive with the music of dragons.
That's really good.
That's all I got. I can't hold it in anymore. So I just love that writing. I mean, my God, George, that's just so beautiful. And yes, she breastfeeds her dragons in the books, just in case you didn't know.
Which is awesome. And I think it's crazy that a lot of people like to sexualize this scene, but you don't even pay attention to her being naked. You just don't. Like, you're just transfixed because she is a mother of like, she had her children. She finally got her kids. And yes, they're dragons, but she finally got dragons. She's a Targaryen queen with dragons. That hasn't been seen in years, many, many years. So it's nice.
You know what kills me?
Huh.
So that means she's lactating because of Rhaego. And so that means since, Rhaego passed, that she has had painful, full milk ducts. Her breasts have been swollen and painful until the dragon's nurse.
Yep.
So yeah, I agree with you. It should never be sexualized. It's maternal. It's feminine.
It's maternal.
Yes, it's feminine and beautiful.
Like I said, I just don't even look at the naked. You don't even look at the nakedness. Like, yeah, she looks stunning, but you don't even look at that. You look at it's just a mother moment.
Yep.
It's a very mother moment. It's very cute and sweet.
Do you know what I equate it to? When you see artwork of, a naked form and you just appreciate the beauty, I equate it to that.
Yeah. So, like, there's so many paintings of naked women and men that you just, and sculptures of naked women and men, and you just don't think of that. You think of it as, this is really pretty.
And I appreciate the people that don't just look at that and be like, hey, she's nude. Nah, come on now. It's not about that. Actually, I held it together better than I thought I would. 2005 out of 10.
Yes. That was such a good episode and a very good ending for everybody, I think. I mean, minus Sansa. But that shows that she's going to be something, in my opinion. But yeah, I liked that Daenerys, who is a main character, and Jon, who is a main character, got what they wanted.
They both have been set on a path of purpose.
Yes.
It's the Song of Ice and Fire. As always, it's Amanda here to say thank you to all of our listeners and to ask that if you like this week's episode, leave us an honest rating. And if you'd like to continue the discussion, please feel free to comment on our post over at our Girls Nerd Out podcast account on Instagram. If you're interested in buying any of our merch to support the podcast and so that we can continue to release weekly episodes, then check it out over at girlsnerdoutpodcast.com. Our podcast logo was designed by Chairman Bilal over on Fiverr. Our podcast merch was put together by me, myself, and I at Southern Mother of Dragons on all social media. If you're interested in my personal merch, check it out at southernmotherofdragons.com. And the designs for that merch were put together by Ryuchi Studios on Etsy after an in-depth back and forth discussion with me to find the perfect merch for me and my loyal supporters. The music played while I tell you about all the ways you can support us and the production of the podcast is Kawaii Girl by Pumpkin Pie. Thanks for listening.
Hey, this is Andrea.
And this is Amanda. And you just listened to
Girls Nerd Out.